Welcome back to Revved Up with Ram Thorburn. Now, there's been a lot of nervous talk in the media about whether or not Donald Trump will abdicate the White House and commit to a peaceful transfer of power to Beijing Biden. Well, I'm here to tell you, no fucking way.
Never tell them who I am. Well, how dang, I'm a man. 6 shooters in both my hands. I'm a cold-blooded brother, a real bad mother. Watch out, honey, here I
Alright, welcome back, and I want to thank everybody who showed up for my first ever live stream on Saturday. I am going to do another live stream this coming Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. That's 8 o'clock Eastern time. So I hope that you guys show up and come and show up in the comment section and talk to me and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun being able to interact live with you guys. And there's been a lot of talk. And we see this right here from Newsweek. If Donald Trump refuses to leave the White House, Secret Service will escort him out. We also saw from Salon, fearing jail and facing defeat, Trump will not leave office quietly. And this was a question that has been asked time and time again by the media and the left-wing establishment. If Beijing Biden wins, which we all know he didn't, we all know this was a stolen election, but as it stands, they are pushing the narrative that Beijing Biden is the president-elect. Of course, we know he's not, and we know that the process still has a lot of steps to go through. It hasn't gone to the Supreme Court yet, and I do believe that he will be successful in the Supreme Court because there is just so much evidence that this entire election was a fraud, that the entire thing was a scam on the American people. So with that settled, though, it would be foolish of us to underestimate the depravity and the dirtiness of the deep state establishment and the lengths that they will go in order to get Trump out of the White House. So we're going to speak hypothetically here when we're saying that what if all of the attempts to overturn the election do fail and Beijing Biden is then inaugurated? Will Trump leave the White House? And from a lot of moves that he has been making, it looks like the answer is, thank God, no. No, and nor should he. Nor should he. Just because there is a consensus among the establishment that the establishment has won does not mean that we should grant them that victory. Absolutely not. We all know that the American people voted for Donald Trump in a landslide because we are sick and tired of being put over on by these goddamn deep state actors. And we know they stole this. We know they did. And so there's no reason whatsoever why Trump should turn his back on the American people that he has fought so hard for just because they say so. And there have been certain moves that he has been making that I think indicate that he is prepared to fight this tooth and nail to the bitter end. And thank God we have somebody like that on our side, because as we know with the Republican establishment, they have all been rhinos, they have all been cowards, they have all been spineless little bitches that have never stood up for the American people despite talking a good game. And, we also had this other from the International Business Time. Trump has said that he will leave the White House if Biden victory is confirmed. But I don't think that means that if it's confirmed by the same people that rigged it against him. I think that means that it is confirmed, meaning that they prove that they actually won 80 million votes for a man who didn't even campaign, and then when he did campaign, had trouble drawing 2 handfuls of people to his rallies, while Donald Trump, meanwhile, gets 57,000 at an airport hangar in Pennsylvania. We all know Trump won this election. Trump knows he won the election. All of his attorneys know he won the election. The deep state knows he won the election. So he should not, under any circumstances, leave the White House. He should stand for the American people and fight, and I do think that is going to be the case. And, it's funny because for the longest time, the media was saying, there's no chance Donald Trump can win. He is going to lose. They looked at all the polling, which we know the polls were rigged. The polls were wrong by like 15 points. Absolutely insane. But this video resurfaced of CNN's Fareed Zakaria, and he was talking about exactly how Trump can win. And let's go ahead and listen to this, because I think some people on the left are starting to pay attention to the possibility that their fight against Trump isn't over, and I don't think they're going to come out victorious. And if they do, well, then they're going to have 74 million Trump supporters to contend with. Let's go ahead and play this.
But first, here's my take. By declining to commit to a peaceful transfer of power, President Trump has agitated many who fear he will refuse to leave office even if he loses the November election, and may even resort to violence. But the terrifying reality is that there are also mechanisms that are legal and constitutional that could enable Trump to stay in office without actually winning the vote. The system of electing the president is complicated because it was not designed to be directly democratic. The Constitution calls for states to choose the presidential electors, who in turn gather to vote for the president. Over time, states have passed laws that ensured their state's popular vote for the presidency would determine the electors. But those are laws, not a constitutional obligation. Now, imagine the scenario during election week. Trump is leading on November 3rd, but Joe Biden pulls ahead in the days following. Republicans file objections to tens of thousands of mail-in ballots. Democrats file countersuits. Taking account of the confusion, legislators decide to choose the electors themselves. Here's the worry. Of the 9 swing states, 8 have Republican legislatures. If one or more decide that balloting is chaotic and marred by irregularities, they could send what they regard as the legitimate slate of electors, which would be Republican. Democrats may object and file lawsuits. In some of those states, Democratic governors or secretaries of state could send their own slates of electors to Washington. That would add to the confusion, but that might well be part of the Republican plan. Because you see, when Congress convenes on January 6th to tally the electors' votes, there would be challenges to the legitimacy of some electors. It's possible congressional Republicans could decide that disputed states should simply not be counted. Suppose in the scenario Michigan's votes are invalidated, that would ensure that neither candidate would get to 270 electoral votes. At that point, the Constitution clearly directs that the House of Representatives vote to determine the presidential election. But it does so with each state casting a single ballot. If the current numbers hold, there would be 26 state delegations that are Republican and 23 Democratic, with one tied. So the outcome would be to re-elect Donald Trump. Trump doesn't need to do anything other than to simply accept this outcome, which is constitutional. Thanks to Tom Rogers and Tim Wirth for their writings on this topic.
So we all heard them for a long time talking about how they were talking about the red mirage, and you heard Fareed talking about this right then and there. He was talking about the red mirage, and that was the idea that Trump was going to look like he was winning on election night, and then the next day we'd wake up and all the mail-in ballots would be counted, and then Biden would win. They were pumping the primer on this from the beginning because they all knew that the fix was in. They all knew about this already. So they were pumping the primer on it so that we would not question it. But we are smarter than that. We are not as stupid as the establishment thinks that we are. There is no possible way that all of those vote dumps in the middle of the night, after they stopped counting, 5 states simultaneously stopped counting, then all those vote dumps for Biden were legitimate. We knew that wasn't real, and we knew even when they were priming the pump, when they were telling us about this red mirage that was going to happen. We saw right through that from the beginning. They weren't fooling anybody. And if it does come down to it, this is going to be what separates the men from the boys. The men will stand strong with Donald Trump, knowing that this election was stolen, and we will not allow them to get away with it over our dead bodies. And he even said, people were worried that Donald Trump it would take violence to get him to leave. Well, guess what? It's going to fucking have to, because we know for a fact this election was not on the up and up. We know it was stolen. We know it was rigged. We know that they did countless. I mean, your head swims when you start to think of all the dirty deeds they pulled in order to get Joe Biden the quote-unquote victory. Because we know Biden didn't win. We know that there was no enthusiasm for him as a candidate. Meanwhile, the enthusiasm for Donald Trump was through the roof. It was through the fucking stratosphere. No goddamn way did Biden win this election. With all of the evidence of fraud, with all of the affidavits people have signed, with all of the forensics that have been done on the computer side. Sorry, that's probably a very Luddite way to say it, but again, I am a bit of a Luddite. So we need to turn our attention, because we all already know this narrative. We all already know the narrative of the voter fraud, taking it to courts, but as I said a minute ago, we cannot underestimate the dirtiness of the deep state. We can't necessarily know who has been compromised and who really is on our team. So we can sit here with all the confidence in the world and say we have all of this evidence. We might have all that evidence. We might have all the proof in the world that 40 million votes were stolen. We could have that and be able to prove it plainly. That doesn't mean that we are going to be able to go through the legal system in order to get the results that we know are true. Because corruption is rampant, especially in the court systems, because the Democrats have spent the last several decades making sure that the court is filled with activist judges who care more about the policy than they do about upholding the Constitution. So there is that chance. Will Trump leave peacefully if that is the case? I don't think so, and I don't think he should. I think he should fight. And let's take a look at some of the stuff that Trump has been doing recently that indicate, that just kind of make you scratch your head and wonder whether Trump is preparing a plan B for a military engagement to take out the deep state. So we start here with this from DJHJ Media. JFK's vision. Trump's DOD watershed reform with special operations civilian leadership. Now, this came out a couple weeks ago, and it was one of those things that I wanted to report on, and there was so much news going on with the election and all the details of how everything was going that it got put on the back burner and I never got to it. But I think it's important that we talk about this. So, a remarkable announcement was made by the acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller on Wednesday about a reform of the positioning for the special forces that was full of reminders of President John F. Kennedy. Now, the big news also was that Christopher Miller was named the acting secretary, the acting Secretary of Defense after Mark Esper was fired, and several other loyalists like what's his name, Tata and Kash Patel and Ezra Cohen Watnick were put in place, all Trump loyalists. And let's go ahead and get into this before I talk too much about it. So he says here, let's just watch the video of what Christopher Miller says here.
I'm here today to announce that I have directed the Special Operations civilian leadership to report directly to me instead of through the current bureaucratic channels.
Now, the current bureaucratic channels is code for CIA. It's code for CIA because special operations, black ops, dark ops, covert ops have all been run through the Central Intelligence Agency. But now, special operations are going to be reporting directly to Chris Miller, the Secretary of Defense, putting them on par with the other branches of the military. Which is a very big deal because it will be sidestepping the CIA, which we all know has been corrupted. We all know has basically been behind forming this shadow government. So, Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller announced Wednesday that U.S. Special Operations Command will now report directly to him, putting it on par with the service branches. And that's very, very important. So, Donald Trump tweeted here, I am pleased to announce that Christopher C. Miller, the highly respected Director of National Counterterrorism Center, unanimously confirmed by the Senate, will be Acting Secretary of Defense effective immediately. Now, this all happened after the election. And this is just one of a couple stories I'll be covering here. But does this seem like a man who is about to leave office, shaking up the Department of Defense, bringing special ops into the Department of Defense and taking it out of the intelligence community's hands? Does that seem like the actions of somebody who is packing their bags? Absolutely not. And he was getting rid of the establishment Republican defense people in the Pentagon and replacing them with people that are loyal to him. Again, does not seem like the actions of somebody who is getting ready to vacate the White House. It sounds like somebody who is about to make a stand and is willing to make a stand militaristically if need be. And I support him 100% on that. And there is no room for the soft, squishy, spineless, weak-willed Republicans who are going to be intimidated by by this saying that, oh, no, he should just go. We don't want the fight. We don't want the fight. Yes, motherfucker, we do want the fight. We want the fight because we will win that motherfucking fight. And we will bring that fight to them. No fucking way are we cowering down and letting them steal an election that is so blatant, so blatantly stolen. No goddamn way are we backing down from that. And I am proud to say that Donald J. Trump is my president, and proud to see that he is making these moves to secure our future. Because if Biden gets into office, guess what? It's over. America is done. We were on the precipice when we elected Donald J. Trump. We were on that precipice. And because the deep state did so much to hamstring everything that he was trying to do, he still got a lot done, don't get me wrong. But we have still got a long way to go to draining that swamp. And they prevented him from doing that through his first term by keeping him hamstrung in all those goddamn sham investigations. We're not falling for the games anymore. We're not playing the games. We're not falling for the tricks. We're in it to win it. And we will do anything it takes. And I don't care. The media can call it a coup. They can call it whatever the fuck they want. If they want to call it a coup, fine. Call it a coup. I support the goddamn coup. I support Donald Trump. I support what he's doing for this country. I support taking down the deep state. I support ending selling us out to foreign countries. I support ending the endless foreign wars that get American soldiers, American patriots killed to protect interests that have nothing to do with you or me. Nothing to do with us. Miller said that the move for special ops comes in recognition of the nation's increasing reliance on its covert forces. It will put Special Operations Command on par with the military services for the first time. This reform will immediately improve agility for the department and the command, and will enable us to streamline decision flow, enhance decision making, and more adeptly support our commanders and the superb soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And you know what he's essentially saying there is that it will immediately improve the agility for the department and the command. The command meaning that it'll all be under the Secretary of Defense. It won't be called by Gina Haspel and the goons at the CIA. The Pentagon will be handling covert ops, not some shadowy forces that are seemingly accountable to nobody. So the new policy eliminates bureaucratic layers that have existed between the Pentagon chief and the head of Special Operations / low intensity conflict. It also gives Special Operations Command, which is based in Tampa, Florida, a more direct line to the Defense Secretary. The new move likely is pegged to the coming drawdown of U.S. forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, a Pentagon official told Just the News. It also hints at current bureaucratic logjams within the Department of Defense, Solomon reported. Now, we have Ezra Cohen Watnick here, who is one of the best patriots we have on our side. He started under General Michael Flynn when Michael Flynn, early in Trump's, during the Trump campaign and early in Trump's administration when Michael Flynn was the national security advisor. So this is from Ezra Cohen Watnick, and this is from On Ready here. Ezra Cohen Watnick just delivered a speech regarding the move to place civilian special ops directly underneath the acting Secretary of Defense. Listen closely.
Today, the Department of Defense has started the process of formalizing what we have long known, the fundamental role of U.S. Special Operations in defense and foreign policy by...
What he's saying, that we have long known the role of defense and the role of special ops, meaning that those are military. Those are not intelligence.
Elevating special operations forces to a level on par with military departments as authorized and directed by Congress.
authorized and directed by Congress. The CIA is not accountable to Congress. In fact, many things in the CIA are accountable to not even the president. They do a lot of things in secret that nobody knows about. Well, this puts an end to that.
As we enact these reforms, we follow the vision of President John F. Kennedy, who predicted the rise of special operations nearly 60 years ago. He foresaw, quote, another type of war, new in its intensity, ancient in its origin, that would require a whole new kind of strategy, a wholly different kind of force, forces which are too unconventional to be called conventional forces, which are growing in number and importance and significance. President Kennedy gave these remarks at the opening of the nuclear age, when the Pentagon was primarily organized to plan and direct large conventional operations against superpowers, not special operations short of overt declared conflict. The global demands for special operations forces then and now has confirmed President Kennedy's foresight. And now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of special operations forces. It is fitting that we are again entering an era of great power competition as we gather to affirm the importance of the special operations community.
Struggles for power, huh? Was he talking internationally or was he talking domestically? I got a feeling he's talking about both. But that struggle for power in America right now is very, very real. And special forces operations are likely being put in charge now of uncovering a lot of the dirty deeds that went down during the election.
Then as now, I know special operations forces will play a vital role. And by the historic reforms we have enacted today, we will ensure Special Operations Forces has a civilian advocate commensurate to the secretaries of the other military departments. I am honored to serve as your service secretary. Thank you very much.
Lot of stuff in there, lot of sauce in that statement right there, and I think it really goes to show. He's talking about he's talking about the power struggles, and again, I think he's talking about deep state versus Trump. I really do. So speculation on social media drew connection to John F. Kennedy's National Security Action Memo 57. So the Dark Journalist says, to issue his order that special operations now report directly to him, acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller had to execute the power held in this JFK order, National Security Action Memorandum 57, designed to bypass the CIA. Let that sink in. The CIA we know is corrupt. The CIA we know has been very anti-patriot, very anti-Trump. This allows special operations to bypass Gina Haspel and the CIA and operate directly under the people that Donald Trump has just put in place in the Department of Defense. I think he's setting something up. These are not the actions of a man who is ready to leave the White House. So he continues. Here is President Kennedy's NASM 57, which gives the Special Operations Authority back to the Pentagon, demoting the CIA. Acting Defense Secretary Miller activated this authority in his Special Ops order today. Now, we're not going to read all that, but it is a very, very interesting move that was made, and I think it could be extremely significant. So the Associated Press here, the Associated Press here said, Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller announced plans to reduce U.S. troop levels in Iraq and Afghanistan. Miller said the plan will cut the number of troops in Afghanistan from more than 4,500 to 2,500, and Iraq from 3,000 to 2,500. Now, it also came out recently that members of the military were lying to Donald Trump about how many people were actually in Afghanistan. Imagine that. Lying to the commander-in-chief about where you have your forces. I mean, all it takes is for one thing to go wrong militaristically, and all of a sudden, people are asking, why did we have that many troops there, Donald Trump? You said that we drew them all out. Well, he thought they did. That is unacceptable from a national security standpoint. Absolutely unacceptable. We can't have all of this corruption going on. And another one of the people that were big players. So, we mentioned Christopher Miller, Ezra Cohen Watnick, Tata, and several others. But Kash Patel has been another big one. And this is from the Gateway Pundit. Opposition to Trump apoplectic over announcement of Kash Patel's appointment to Defense Secretary Miller's chief of staff. So we have more going on with the same team of Trump loyalists. And so here's a timeline of recent developments that has people talking. Kash Patel was the key aide assisting House Intelligence Committee ranking member Devin Nunes on Spygate and all related matters. Patel is well respected in Trump circles. He was instrumental in revealing the Obama campaign spying on the Trump campaign. Kash Patel was falsely accused of being a Trump-Ukraine informant during the sham impeachment of President Trump. On August 2nd, 2019, Kash Patel was named by the Trump White House to his current counterterrorism post. On Monday, President Trump fired Secretary of Defense Mark Esper and named Christopher Miller head of the National Counterterrorism Center. Again, this isn't all brand new news, but I do think it is important to cover and talk about in the terms of what does this mean from a militaristic sense. Should the deep state somehow push through Biden by all the electoral means? On Monday, President Trump fired Secretary of Defense Mark Esper and named Christopher Miller head of the National Counterterrorism Center as acting defense secretary. I don't know why I can't read and talk today, so please bear with me. On Monday, Attorney General Bill Barr paid a little advertised visit to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. On Monday, Mitch McConnell held a speech on the U.S. Senate floor in support of President Trump's efforts to sort out all the irregularities and cheating ahead, during, and after the November 3rd, 2020 election. On Tuesday, Mitch McConnell and other Republican senators held a presser in support of Trump's election efforts. Now, let's hope that all of them stand up and do not kowtow once additional pressure is put on them to bend the knee to the establishment. I know some of these people are establishment. I always hated Mitch McConnell. He's had a little bit of a rebirth under Donald Trump, where the whole cocaine Mitch thing. Let's hope that's genuine and that he's not just playing. That he's not just putting on a face for us, because we all know that Republicans are great at putting on a face that their supporters and voters want to hear, and then turning around and doing the exact opposite. So today, the president named Kash Patel to the role of Christopher Miller's chief of staff. So Kash Patel is going to be right up in all of this, and Kash Patel is a patriot. Tuesday, Director of the CIA Gina Haspel visited Senate Majority Leader McConnell. So AG Barr visits McConnell. McConnell comes out and gives a speech supporting Trump. And then other Republicans join Mitch McConnell in supporting Trump. Then Kash Patel is named Miller's Secretary of Staff. And then CIA Director Gina Haspel shows up to Mitch McConnell. Very, very shady. I bet Gina Haspel had some things to say about the meeting that was had with AG Barr. And I've heard some reaffirming news about AG Barr. My faith in him was wavering a little bit because we were all hoping that indictments would be coming down before the election. That did not happen. I have heard some good news on that front, that that Lynn Wood said that AG Barr is undoubtedly preparing indictments right now. Of course, I have to sometimes remind myself that this doesn't happen on my own timeline. But we've seen Donald Trump getting frustrated too. And Donald Trump, we would think, should be on top of all of this. He should know what's going on with this. Although, I guess, they are different departments, and, It's complicated. The way that our government works is not clear cut. We are not a dictatorship, so Trump doesn't necessarily know exactly what is going on under all of these other departments. So Henry Rogers tweets here: Director of CIA Gina Haspel walked into McConnell's office per Capitol Hill pool. So yeah, I bet she had some nervous questions to ask Mitch McConnell about the conversation that he had with AG Barr. Because, and Gina Haspel, she was one of the ones that was overseeing a lot of the enhanced interrogation going on during, the early 2000s under the George Bush administration, George W. Bush. So, regardless of the current dynamic inside the election challenge controversy, this is a very interesting move by the White House. Kash Patel is the National Secretary Council aide who is the key member assisting House Intelligence Committee ranking member Devin Nunes. Patel knows all the details and nuances within the overall Spygate saga on a very granular level. And I know a good bit about it, but I'm sure I don't know as much as Kash Patel. So whether the move of Kash Patel to support Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller is based on an approach towards declassifying documents and evidence in the background of Spygate, or whether Patel's move might be associated with a larger election dynamic is unknown. The former seems more likely. In fact, both of them seem equally likely to me. However, the lawfare/resistance opposition to the Trump administration is apoplectic with the just-announced role of Patel. Lawfare, the liberal media, and their related poodles are apoplectic over these moves. Apparently, Patel knows a lot about the shenanigans and games against our president. So, Alan Smith reports that Trump loyalist Kash Patel, Ezra Cohen Watnick, and Anthony Tata are taking on top posts at the Pentagon today. Very, very good news. Why, again, I have to just ask yourself, why would Donald Trump, on his way out, be reorganizing the Pentagon with his own loyalists if he isn't expecting some potential split within the military over the election? I don't know. Maybe it is just so that they can uphold investigations into the election. Jack Posobiec tweeted, Trump just declared war on the war machine. I got a feeling he might be declaring war on a lot more than just the war machine. I think this is him declaring war on the entire deep state and on the people who are trying to overthrow this election and the will of the people. I really do. I don't think there's any way that Trump is going to be leaving the White House come January. They can even go through the entire inauguration process. Joe Biden is going to walk up those stairs and Donald Trump is going to be sitting there with his arms crossed and the military saying, "Go the fuck back to Delaware, you corrupt piece of shit." So, from Aaron Maida, Pentagon has confirmed the exits of Anderson, policy head, Kernan, intel head, and Stewart, chief of staff to Secretary of Defense. Replacements Anthony Tata, Ezra Cohen Watnick, Kash Patel. That's a pretty clean sweep from traditional defense Republicans to Trump loyalists. Jacob Kornbluh says, what a bad name, Kornbluh. Ezra Cohen Watnick, who entered the Trump administration as an aide to National Security Advisor, will replace Undersecretary of Defense Joseph Kernan. And Alexander Vindman is nervous too. Now, we all know Alexander Vindman from the sham impeachment hearing, and we all remember when it came out that the quote-unquote whistleblower, whose name we are not allowed to mention, was actually a decoy, and that Alexander Vindman was the whistleblower the entire time. Anybody remember him when he told one of the congressmen to address him by his rank? It was the most narcissistic, cheesy, doucheballiest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So Alexander Vindman says, in the last 24 hours, the Secretary of Defense, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, and the Undersecretary of Defense for Intel have been sacked. Trump loyalists now sit in the 1, 3, and 4 slots at the DOD. Kash Patel is DOD Chief of Staff. Why? Why? Because they're coming to butt-fuck you and your likes, Alexander Vindman. Alexander Vindman is a fucking slug. He is a goddamn shit weasel. And he's gonna be gone. He's gonna be gone. I got a feeling he's gonna find himself in some fairly hot water. And it's not just that, though. We have more recent news. We have more recent news from the New York Post. the Trump administration ousts almost all of the Pentagon's Defense Policy Board. So, 11 members of the Pentagon's Defense Policy Board have been abruptly booted by the outgoing Trump administration, according to a new report. Now, come on, New York Post. Don't call it the outgoing Trump administration. I think, if anything, this is another indicator that the Trump administration is anything but outgoing. Former Secretaries of State Henry Kissinger and Madeleine Albright, I did not even realize that they were still involved, but thank God, good riddance, especially Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger is the architect who actually, he's the architect of the plan to open up China. He is the architect of how China became who they are today. Madeleine Albright, another war hawk. Retired Admiral Gary Roughhead, one-time ranking member of House Intelligence Committee Jane Harman, and Rudy DeLeon, a former chief operating officer at the Pentagon, were all removed effective immediately. Also ousted were former House Majority Leader Eric Cantor and former Treasury Department Undersecretary David McCormick, former Deputy Attorney General Jamie Gorelick, U.S. Chief I really can't read today. I think I'm fully dyslexic today. Chief U.S. Nuclear Negotiator Robert Joseph, former Deputy National Security Advisor J.D. Crouch, the second, that would be Junior, and former top defense official Franklin Miller. The Defense Policy Board provides top-ranking Pentagon officials with independent, informed advice and the opinion on matters of defense policy. The Trump administration has sought to appoint members loyal to the president to the board, but got pushback from former Defense Secretary Mark Esper and acting Undersecretary of Defense for Policy James Anderson. Esper was fired earlier this month, with Anderson resigning shortly after. And, God, I still can't believe Henry Kissinger is like 98 years old. I mean, at this point, he's probably got cobwebs on him that he's had on him for 3 years that he doesn't know about. And Henry Kissinger is one of the most disgusting globalists that in the history of American politics. He was the Secretary of State under Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. And I believe he also was quoted as saying something along the lines of, and we'd have to check the veracity on this, about how basically one day Americans will thank UN forces coming into America and how we will give up our freedom for the safety that they provide. Get fucked, Henry Kissinger. No fucking way. Henry Kissinger is, I mean, he is as swampy as they get. Absolute globalist swamp monster. Now, speaking of the globalists, there's this video that just came out from George H.W. Bush's funeral. Now, this is slightly off topic, but I found it very, very interesting, and I just thought I'd share it with you guys. So, Eric Matheny posted this, and he says, "What did the letter say?"
It was noticed that several of the globalist political players received an unexpected letter inside of their program. Hillary Clinton was the only one who kept her poker face when looking at the mysterious letter. Former Vice President Joe Biden appeared to be distressed when his wife found his. Laura Bush had a look of anger and could barely keep from staring at hers. And when she showed it to Jeb Bush, as his deceased father was being carried in front of him, he was distressed enough to take his hand from his heart, and he looked rather troubled by what he saw. It was no...
Very, very interesting. That being at H.W.'s funeral. I mean, we can only speculate what was in those letters. You know, I have no idea. I mean, my guess is that maybe it was somebody from the Trump team that was putting messages in there to tell them maybe you're next. Maybe HW didn't go out as cleanly as we thought. I know there's been speculation that John McCain didn't go out as cleanly as we thought. But they looked very upset. I don't know if you saw Biden the Bidens and the Bushes there, they did not look happy to see whatever was put in their program. It seemed like, again, I can only speculate on what it could possibly be. But of course, Hillary Clinton, the ice queen of humanity, I guess she's not even human, that's maybe the wrong term, just the ice queen, was somehow able to keep a straight face. But the Bidens and the Bushes, they seemed like something very bad was just told to them. I'm thinking maybe it said something along the lines of they're next. Maybe it included evidence of stuff that they had on them. Hard to tell. But back to the idea of these special operations now being put under the Department of Defense, under Chris Miller. We've heard reports, and I didn't want to talk about this too much, about the whole server issue in Germany. Because it came out and there was really no way to verify it. There was really no way to, the Seidel server, where the election was routed through Barcelona to a server in Frankfurt, Germany at a CIA center. And it sounded very conspiratorial, which of course we know that in the days of unveiling the Deep Swamp, a lot of the conspiratorial stuff, they wonder why so many people buy into conspiracy theories. It's because it's being revealed how much we've been lied to. And we just don't trust our institutions anymore. So this is from Ops Lens. Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney reports U.S. Special Forces attacked CIA server farm in Germany in server seizure operation, and 5 soldiers were killed, and the servers were secured. This is bold. This is very, very bold. So, Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney and Lieutenant General Michael Flynn gave interviews to WVW Broadcasting Network today. It was Flynn's first interview since his pardon. In stunning testimony, McInerney stated his sources have told him U.S. Army Special Forces, possibly the famed Delta Force, raided the CIA-run server farm in Frankfurt, Germany. 5 soldiers were killed in the ensuing firefight, as well as 1 CIA paramilitary. The CIA personnel were allegedly flown in from Afghanistan for security, according to reports. Subsequent review of the secured servers yielded proof that China, Iran, and Russia were involved in the attempted coup against President Donald Trump, who will be shown to have won an overwhelming victory for the American people, McInerney revealed. McInerney's no joke. This is a 3-star general. This is not just some random person on Twitter making these claims. This is not just an attorney who is hearing whispers making these claims. This is a 3-star general. These people have committed treason, declared McInerney. He pleaded with President Trump to not leave office until the treason is uncovered, otherwise America will be fatally wounded and ripe for takeover by our enemies. And that he's saying what I'm saying. Trump should not leave office until the treason is uncovered. The election be damned. The inauguration be damned. He doesn't go anywhere until the business is settled. McInerney also stated that he believes President Trump knew the steal was coming, hence his executive order issued for sanctions for interference in our elections by foreign powers. Reports are now circulating that General Flynn is involved in helping the president with a private intelligence operation. And we actually have some of the... If you guys haven't heard that interview with Michael Flynn and Thomas McInerney with WVW, it is worth every second of the listen. It's about 1 hour and 8 minutes long, and it is worth every damn second. You guys need to look that up and listen to the whole thing. But we're going to play a little bit of it here with General Thomas McInerney.
Well, I would say this is the start of a counteroffensive in military terms, in ground terms. And the reason I say that, Colonel Mike and Dr. Mike, is what we've seen is 2 lawsuits put in by Sidney Powell in Georgia, 104 pages, and one and the other one in 75 pages in Michigan. The highlights of that are, number one, that in Georgia, Sidney has identified 96,000 absentee ballots that were not counted into the system. So 96,000 votes have got to come off the rolls. And she's working that out. In addition, she also found out that through the Kraken, and the Kraken is the 305th military intelligence battalion who works these kind of problems, that we have Chinese and Iranian involvement.
Wow.
Very startling. That's the first I've heard it in the counting process. More
Gotcha.
to follow on that. But that certainly puts in the executive order that President Trump put out in September of 2018 comes into effect. So that is very significant. It's the first I've heard of it that it's been written. And I'm now seeing it pop up in other areas. The other areas were in Pennsylvania, for instance, the state sent out 1.8 million mail-in ballots. And then they counted 2.5 million mail-in ballots. You figure, but I think somebody was printing mail-in ballots and that they're illegal. That's 700,000 ballots, gentlemen, that have got to be taken off. And that's clearly the difference, in my humble opinion, in these states. So this is what we're seeing. The other thing I saw came up was Wisconsin has identified 150,000 fraudulent votes, and they outline them by the numbers very accurately. So this is what is all developing. It's a ton of information coming in, much of it from crowdsourcing, from people like us, people that are studying these numbers. And the final thing I want to highlight before I want Colonel Mike in, or Dr. Mike in, is I saw a very, very important analysis of the data in real time. And when they stopped the voting in about 6 or 7 states, some number, around midnight or so, all of a sudden, around 3 or 4 numbers would come out. And it would be like, for instance, Virginia. Trump won Virginia. And now I think we're kind of surprised about it, particularly the way Fox rolled in 5 minutes after the polls closed, and Trump was way ahead, and until they stopped, then they threw in a slug of votes. But here's what happened. On that slug of votes they threw in Virginia, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, in Georgia, they used an algorithm. Now, how do I know they used an algorithm? Because the ratio of number of votes, so maybe 120,000, 138,000, like in Michigan, whatever it was the exact ratio in all the states, the same.
Wow. Amazing.
And so right there is evidence, just looking at numbers, that an algorithm was put on it. It would be impossible to get that exact same number in 4 or 5 states around the same time.
So, General, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The way you're talking today on Thanksgiving Day, this is just a tip that we're learning about.
Precisely, Colonel Mike. And that's why I think we should say, and I'm certainly going to say it, with this data that's coming in, Biden ought to concede right now.
Yep.
And just concede. And he probably won't. But what we're talking about, because it was so massive and because so many people involved, you can't hide this. Time is not our friend. But this is treason.
Yes.
This is treason. We are looking at treason on a massive scale. And the people that were nominated by Biden to be Secretary of State and those other functions that they nominated, UN ambassador, et cetera, were all probably involved. They were all involved in the Russian hoax. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And now involved with this. So the connectivity, and here's where I'm going to see, where is John Durham's report? What has John Durham done? Or is John Durham part of the deep state?
And that's a big question we've all been asking. Is John Durham part of the deep state? Or is he on the up and up? Because we thought we were going to have results before the election from the John Durham investigation. And now we've even got President Trump here.
Where is the DOJ and the FBI in all of this, Mr. President? You have laid out some serious charges here. Shouldn't this be something that the FBI is investigating? Are they?
Missing in action.
Is the DOJ investigating?
Missing in action. Can't tell you where they are. I ask, are they looking at it? Everyone says yes, they're looking at it. Look, where are they with Comey, McCabe, and all these other people? You know, I said I'll stay out of it. I wish I didn't make that statement. There's no reason really why I have to. But where are they with Comey, with McCabe, with Brennan, with all these people? They lied to Congress. They lied. They leaked. They spied in our campaign. I see Carter Page is bringing a lawsuit. That's good news. Where are they with all of this stuff? And, you know, what happened to Durham? Where's Durham? So, you know, you're asking me a question. These people have been there a long time. And I know FBI, and FBI is great at the levels that we talk about, but it's inconceivable. You would think if you're in the FBI or Department of Justice, this is the biggest thing you could be looking at. Where are they? I've not seen anything. I mean, they just keep moving along, and they go on to the next president.
Yeah, that's true, and it's the unelected government. That's the deep state. It's the perpetual unelected government of people who don't want to have to shift whatever they're doing to the people's will, because they're worried about their own careers. They're worried about what they're doing. Where is John Durham on this investigation? I really hope the information that I got that Lynn Wood said the AG Barr is undoubted. What did he say? Undoubtedly working on indictments. I certainly hope that's true, because I'm tired of waiting on this one. I am tired of waiting on the Obamagate investigation. I feel like they have had more than enough time to put together everything that they need on that. The deep state is so corrupt and so bad that they can go ahead and start taking people down, and they'll still find all the information they need on everybody else. They will still find that information. But back to Thomas McInerney. He has confirmed treason by foreign and domestic actors. And so the Kraken, we've all heard Sidney Powell talk about the Kraken, and we've wondered what the Kraken means. Well, it's come out that the Kraken is the military's nickname for the 305th Military Intelligence Battalion out of Fort Huachuca, Fort Huachuca, Arizona. We have all been wondering what was the meaning of the term and what was the meaning of the rumor that a server was seized in a CIA facility in Frankfurt. Was the rumor that people were killed or hurt in the raid true? Why is it important that Sidney Powell is trained in procedures of military tribunals? Military tribunals will be trying the treason charges. Military tribunals will be trying the treason charges. And I have the next story I have is pretty interesting too on that. So what we are finding out is that we are facing treason in the homeland and clear interference by foreign actors, aka the CCP and others. The Constitution did not contemplate cyber warfare by the CIA on America. The Constitution didn't even contemplate that a CIA would exist on America. A collaboration by media and social media in treason by a major party, and unlimited cyber warfare by foreign actors, all at the same time. We are facing a constitutional safe harbor deadline of December 14th, but for treason, the president and the military cannot stand by and watch this election be stolen. Yes, yes, yes. That is what I'm saying. Who cares about the deadlines? Who cares about the processes? If we're talking about treason, if we're talking about a stolen election, all bets are off. All the norms go out the window. And this is where we're going to see the separation of the men from the boys. Like I said before, anyone who cowers under the pressure to cede everything over to Biden and the deep state commie-crats they will be remembered. They will be remembered for the pussies that they are. Because we are on that precipice, and if Joe Biden gets in, it's over. I already said it. The president swore an oath to protect the American people and the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, not to give up because of an artificial deadline. Treason is a matter for a military tribunal. Sidney Powell is trained in the procedures of military tribunals. These charges will be brought to the Supreme Court of the United States, but beyond that, it can be a matter for a military tribunal. And I think we're going to see a lot of these military tribunals in the future. American Thinker also published an important article. The smartest man in the room has joined Sidney Powell's team, on November 28th. Whitberg states that Sidney Powell in her Georgia lawsuit included the declaration of Dr. Naveed Keshavar's Nia. Now, I talked about this the other day, but I'm going to go over this again for those of you guys who didn't see that previous video. He is a witness stating that the election was turned in favor of Joe Biden through computer fraud. In the area of cybersecurity, Dr. Keshavar's Nia is known as the most knowledgeable and smartest individual in the world. Even the New York Times described him as always the smartest man in the room. In doing cybersecurity and technical counterintelligence work for the CIA, NSA, and FBI, he had spent decades connecting top secret dots. His qualifications include a BA, MA, and PhD in various areas of electrical and computer engineering. Also, I have advanced training from the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Central Intelligence Agency, the NSA, DHS Office of Intelligence and Analysis, and Massachusetts Institution of Technology, MIT. What does Dr. Keshavarz Nia have to say? Paraphrasing from the article from the American Thinker, so this isn't his exact words, but this is paraphrasing what he said. Electronic manipulation is evident in the swing states now in dispute. The simultaneous halting of the counts in these states on the night of November 3rd, 4th demonstrates a coordinated effort to engineer the required results to ensure a Biden win. 1 to 2% of votes for Biden are unlawful ballots. Optical scanners were engineered to accept unverified, unvalidated ballots. Scanners were set to not keep audit records. The cryptographic key was used to alter vote counts. It is not possible to feed 400,000 ballots into the counting machines in the time allotted. This points to cyber manipulation of the results. The counting machines use Chinese parts, and connections to China, Venezuela, and even Cuba are beginning to emerge. The CIA hammer and scorecard system was used to change the vote count in swing states, and the results were sent to CITL servers associated with the CIA in Frankfurt, Germany, to avoid detection. That is what Dr. Keshavarz Nia has said. Who are we going to believe? Major General Thomas McInerney and Revved Keshavarz Nia, or the mainstream media, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and the commie crap party? I think I know who I trust. And it is certainly not the commie-crats and all of their goons at big tech and all the people who are doing the censorship for them. And another piece of interesting news that has come out, they're talking about military tribunals. Well, Trump has now loosened U.S. execution rules allowing poison gas and firing squads. The changes would allow for capital punishment by firing squad or poison gas instead of lethal injection. Critics say Donald Trump is trying to rush through tougher punishments before he leaves office. I think he's trying to, I think he's trying to rush through tougher punishments so that when he doesn't leave office, he is going to take out these traitors through firing squads. U.S. President Donald Trump is paving the way for additional methods of executing prisoners who have been sentenced to death in the United States, according to new government documents. Why would he be signing this executive order if he didn't think that they were going to be putting people to death? You gotta just ask why. You know, when you look at this information, you have to think, why would he be doing this? And also, why would he be doing this now? It all points in one direction. He's not leaving office. They are going to find the traitors. The traitors will be found guilty, and they will be executed. The U.S. Department of Justice has amended the rules on federal executions, which would allow death by firing squads or poisonous gas, according to a document published by the Federal Register on Friday. The paper says the U.S. government can conduct an execution by lethal injection or use any other manner prescribed by the law of the state in which the sentence is imposed. Some U.S. states already allow other methods of execution, including electrocution, inhaling nitrogen gas, or death by firing squad. It remains unclear whether the Justice Department will seek to use any methods other than lethal injection for federal executions in the future. I think firing squads and hanging are perfectly apt for treason. I don't want to see them given lethal injection. I don't know. I want old school punishment for an old school crime. Treason. That's exactly what it is. Now, down in Georgia, just a little bit of election news. Breaking news. In Breaking Georgia Update. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Judge issues restraining order for 10 days preventing defendants from destroying or erasing Dominion voting machines. Judge Timothy Batten Sr. issued an order on Sunday morning to freeze all Dominion voting machines in the state of Georgia. But it gets a little screwier than that, because he flip-flopped back and forth on this 3 times. 3 times. Which makes you wonder what is going on, and also why is Georgia trying to purge these election machines, especially when there is so much scrutiny on the election. The Communocrats and the deep state Republicans have been trying to hide everything. It doesn't pass the smell test. We don't even need all of this damn evidence coming out. Their actions do not pass the smell test. So, via attorney Lynn Wood, defendants are ordered to maintain the status quo and are temporarily enjoined from wiping or resetting any voting machines in the state of Georgia until further order of the court. So, then later this afternoon, Judge Timothy Batten reversed claim later today based on the defendant's claim that Georgia counties controlled the Dominion voting machines. So Linwood tweets, what? Judge reversed order based on defendant's claim that Georgia counties control voting machines. Machines are owned by the state, and Georgia Secretary of State administers state laws on elections. Why are Georgia officials determined to wipe these machines clean by resetting them? Now this, at 10:10 on Sunday night, Judge Timothy Batten again issued a temporary restraining order for 10 days against the destruction of evidence. So he issued the restraining order, then he went back and he unissued the restraining order, then he went back and reissued it, all in the span of a day. You got to imagine that people were coming after Timothy Batten, that he was threatened, maybe blackmailed. I don't know. Doesn't make sense. So we have Kyle Becker here, the signed legal document from Timothy Batten. Very, very sketchy that they are pulling all of this stuff. And I think Lynn Wood was actually trying to send people down to the warehouses where these people were, where these voting machines are being kept, so that people could watch and make sure they didn't go in the dead of night and swap them out for other machines. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something happen like what just happened in Venezuela. So, Venezuela fire. Thousands of voting machines burned. The Electoral Council in Venezuela says a fire in its main warehouse near the capital, Caracas, has destroyed most of the voting machines held there. Almost 50,000 voting machines and 582 computers used in the country's elections went up in flames, Electoral Council Chief Tibise Lucena said. I don't know if that's how you say it. Tibise Lucena? I don't know. She did not say if parliamentary elections due later this year could be affected by the loss of the machines. She also asked prosecutors to investigate the cause of the fire. But imagine that. In Venezuela, the voting machines all get torched to the ground. Do you really think that was an accident? Hell no, that wasn't an accident. Hell no. It was not an accident. So, to recap this episode, because I'm about to wind it down here, Trump is making moves that I think are positioning him not only to uncover all of the dirty deep state deeds in this election, but also to hold his ground and resist any attempts to remove him from office should the legal recourses not bear fruit. And I support that wholeheartedly, and I think any patriot, anybody who is a conservative, anybody who is a Trump supporter, under zero circumstances should you say that Trump should leave office. Hillary Clinton said, under no circumstances should Biden concede. Well, if they can say it, so the fuck can we. Under no circumstances should Donald Trump concede and vacate the White House. Not to these parasitic monsters. Fuck no. Anyways, guys, that's the episode. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, share this video. Sharing is the only way I am going to grow, because YouTube is doing everything they can to algorithmically suppress me. And I was recently booted from YouTube for a week over a 5-month-old video about Ghislaine Maxwell. If they're going to get me for that, they'll get me for anything they want to. So also, follow me on BitChute and Rumble. I'll be posting all my videos on there as well. And tune in Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific time for the next Rev Stream. We're gonna go live. We're gonna take questions. We're gonna be talking about all kinds of stuff. So also, if you would like to contribute to the channel, there are links to my Subscribestar, Patreon, and PayPal down in the description below. I could really use the help. I do all of this mostly free of charge. I don't get a whole lot of donations, but they would certainly help cover the cost of keeping this channel up and running. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for me. As always, rev your engines, ride hard, and fight like hell.
Never tell 'em who I